Seamus Heaney. Seamus Heaney was born on April 13, 1939, in Castle Dawson, County Derry, Northern Ireland. Hence, he was an Irish poet, playwright, and translator. He received the 1995 Nobel Prize in Literature. He is recognized as one of the principal contributors to poetry in Ireland during his lifetime. Robert Lowell described him as the most important Irish poet since Yeats. His notable works are Death of a Naturalist, 1966, North, 1975, Fieldwork, 1979, The Spirit Level, 1996, Beowulf, a new verse translation, which is the translation of the original work Beowulf, District and Circle, 2006, and Human Chain, 2010. Seamus Heaney died on 30th August 2013. Seamus Heaney's Punishment explores the nature of the violence and revenge within the society. It was first published in the book North in 1975. The poem is inspired by P.V. Glob's book, The Bog People. The poem focuses specifically on a body that has been buried in a peat bog for around 2000 years. A girl's body, known as the Winby Girl, was dug up in Germany in 1952 and was thought to have been ritually killed. Her hair had been shaved, a band covered her eyes, and a halter was tied around the neck. In the poem, the speaker refers to the bog body as an adulteress who was killed for breaking the tribal law. Punishment highlights similarities between Europe's ancient past and the troubles in Northern Ireland. The poem in general is a portrayal of the severity of punishments unleashed on human beings, especially on women, from time immemorial. Human beings thus show no signs of civilization even after claiming that they have discarded their tribal existence. The poem is made up of 11 stanzas with 4 lines each. The first 2 stanzas consist of Heaney describing how he imagines a woman might have looked just prior to her execution for adultery. He then describes what the body looks like now after preservation in the bog. The final 6 stanzas explore the poet's voyeuristic relationship with Condemn and laments over the plight of the women of Northern Ireland. Punishment, Seamus Heaney. I can feel the tug of the halter at the nape of her neck, the wind on her naked front. It blows her nipples to amber beads, it shakes the frail rigging of her ribs. I can see her drowned body in the bog, the weighing stone, the floating rods and boughs, under which at first she was a bark sapling that is dug up, oak bone, brain firking, her shaved head like a stubble of black corn, her blindfold a soil bandage, her nose a ring, to store the memories of love. Little adulteress, before they punished you, you were flaxen haired, undernourished, and your tar black face was beautiful. My poor scapegoat, I always loved you, but would have cast, I know, the stones of silence. I am the artful voyeur of your brains exposed in darkened combs, your muscles webbing, and all your numbered bones. I who have stood dumb when your betraying sisters, cold and tar, wept by the railings. Who would connive in civilized outrage, yet understand the exact and tribal, intimate revenge? I can feel the tug of the halter at the nape of her neck. I can feel the tug of the halter at the nape of her neck, the wind on her naked front. So, in the first stanza, the poet is describing the girl, and he says that he could feel the tug of the halter which is tied around her neck. So, halter is usually a rope which is used to tame an animal. So, this indicates the animal like existence of the girl who's almost dragged towards the place of punishment. It blows her nipples to amber beads, it shakes the frail rigging of her ribs. The poet says that he could now sense a wind that blows above her nipples, making it look like amber colored beads. The wind shakes the frail rigging of her ribs. Rigging is the ropes used to tie her ribs and Her ribs are weak and frail, and this shows her vulnerability. I can see her drowned body in the bog, the weighing stone, the floating rods and boughs. So the poet now says that he can now see her drowned body in the bogland amidst the weighing stone, the floating rods and boughs. So the bogland is occupied with many things like stones, then rods which are floating, and boughs. Boughs means branches of trees or small twigs of trees, under which at first she was a bark sapling that is dug up, oak bone, brain firking. So now the poet says that she was first like a sapling which was secured and protected by a bark, but now she has become weak and fragile. Her bones have become like oak tree, which means that it could now be easily broken. Forking means a measurement, so the term brain forking could indicate that her brain is of a forking size. Forking could also mean a coffin, so it could also mean that her skull might have become a coffin for her brain. Her shaved head like a stubble of black corn, her blindfold a soiled bandage, her nose a ring. The poet now describes how the girl looked like now. Her head is shaved, resembling the stubble or hair of a corn. She is blindfolded, and the bandage has now become muddy. There is a noose or a loop of rope around her to store the memories of love, a little adulterous, before they punished you. So, the noose around her or the loop of rope around her could indicate the marital loop around every woman. How patriarchy shuts a woman from her desires, her wishes, and dreams after marriage. How she is forced to dance according to the whims and fancies of men around her. Now the poet calls her or addresses her as little adulteress. So this makes it clear that the girl is punished for being allegedly caught for adultery. You were flaxen haired, undernourished, and your tar black face was beautiful, my poor scapegoat. The poet now describes the beauty of the girl. He says that she was flaxen haired, which means that she was a blonde haired girl and her hair strands resembled the fibers of flaxseed. The contrast of the image of the shaved head in the previous stanza and the flaxen head in the present stanza shows how extreme the suffering of the girl was, and it heightens our sympathy for the woman. She looks undernourished, and her tar black face is beautiful. Here, the tar black face is not a comment on her ethnicity. However, it is saying that because the body was submerged in this boggy marsh for so long, all of her bones and main skin have become stained by the tar, and it makes her look tar black, which heightens the suffering she endured as she has been had her skin stained in this way, and she is no longer beautiful, but she looks like she has been in a bog for 2000 years. Or even after her death, her body is been suffering for the past 2000 years. The poet now addresses the girl as a scapegoat. A scapegoat is someone who suffers because of others. Here, the girl is suffering due to the severity of the punishments unleashed against her for being allegedly caught for adultery. I almost love you, but would have cast, I know, the stones of silence. I am the artful voyeur. He now sympathizes with the victim. He says that he always loved her, but he had cast only stones of silence. He was a silent witness when she was suffering from such brutality. The silence is compared to the roughness of a stone because here the silence was not needy, but the situation rather required action. But he stood almost dumb. Thus, by being merely silent, he contributed to her death by not stopping it. He describes himself as an artful voyeur. A voyeur is someone who derives pleasure from secretly observing other people. Maybe they are suffering or when they are indulged in sexual activity. Here, the poetic persona refers that he is almost getting a sick sense of pleasure from thinking about and writing about this woman who has been suffering for so long. He is enjoying the feeling, but at the same time, he criticizes himself. He derives some kind of pleasure by thinking about it, but at the same time, he laments over his dumbness and the suffering of the young girl. Of your brains exposed in darkened combs, your muscles webbing, and all your numbered bones. So here the poet says that he is experiencing some kind of pleasure or voyeur while watching her exposed brains, her darkened combs, her webbed muscles, and her numbered bones. Her brain is exposed, and the garments she was wearing has become dark, and her muscles look like they are tied together. The image of brains exposed and darkened combs also indicate that her brain were exposed or pulled out of the body to be analyzed, and so the body is being mutilated even further by archaeologists to understand it, and it highlights even more her suffering and vulnerability. And the numbered bones indicates that her bones were numbered by the archaeologists in order to understand how long the body was. This alludes to the suffering she has underwent even after her death. She has been tortured constantly right from her birth to her death and 2000 years even after her death. I who have stood dumb when your betraying sisters, cold and tar, wept by the railings. So the poet now switches the description of a particular girl to a more general note. He now refers to the women of Northern Ireland who were punished for allegedly being close to the British troop. He has stood dumb or silent when the betraying sisters. Here, the betraying sisters refers to the women of Northern Ireland who were punished for allegedly being close to the British troop. And when these women were severely punished, he stood dumb and silent. They were covered in tar, and they wept by the railings. Who would connive in civilized outrage, yet understand the exact and tribal intimate revenge? The women are said to have conspired against the Irish nationalists, but they fail to realize that the tribal instinct for revenge in man is not yet curbed. Though he claims to be civilized, he still carries in him that tribal revenge and barbarousness which becomes apparent through the severe punishments unleashed against humankind. Hence, the poem ends with a striking note by reminding us that humankind is still a barbarous being in the guise of a so called civilized existence.